Okay, so now Joshua chapter 9. This is interesting because there's another trick you need to know about. Okay, so, okay, here we go. And it came to pass when all the kings who were on this side of the Jordan, in the hills and in the lowland, and in all the coasts of the great sea, which is the Mediterranean, toward Lebanon, the Hittite, the Amorite, the Canaanite, the Perizzite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite, heard about it, that they gathered together to fight with Joshua and Israel with one accord. So what happened was these kings were learning that, we're doomed, and they thought, okay, they'll get them one by one, but if all these kings unite against Israel, they would have a strong force and they would prevail. That was their thinking. So they all got together in this, okay? I mean, it didn't work, but that was their thinking. Okay. But when the inhabitants of Gibeon, so not Gideon, Gibeon, because that's something else, heard what Joshua had done to Jericho and Ai, they worked craftily and went and pretended to be ambassadors. Okay, so this town called Gibeon, these people knew what was happening too, and they had a trick up their sleeve. Okay, so they heard what was happening, so they worked craftily and went and pretended to be ambassadors. And they took old sacks on their donkeys, old wineskins, torn and mended, old and patched sandals on their feet, and old garments on themselves. And all the bread of their provision was dry and moldy. Okay, so they made it look like they were from a land far, far away. Only they were from right around the corner. Okay, all right. And they went to Joshua to the camp at Gilgal and said to him and to the men of Israel, we have come from a far country. Now therefore make a covenant with us. Now here right away your red flag should pop up, right? Now first of all, keep in mind, part of what they were commanded was don't make any treaties with these people. You're supposed to go and conquer the land, okay? Don't get involved with their religion. Don't make any treaties with them. Don't swap husbands and wives, okay? This is not that kind of thing. So they should never make a treaty with them anyway. And if they're from far away, really, why do you need to make a treaty with them, right? They're far away. What difference would it make, right? So that should be right away suspicious. Okay, then the men of Israel said to the Hivites, perhaps you dwell among us, so how can we make a covenant with you? So he thought that far, right? But they said to Joshua, we are your servants. And Joshua said to them, who are you and where do you come from? So they said to him, from a very far country your servants have come because of the name of the Lord your God, for we have heard of his fame and all that he did in Egypt and all that he did to the two kings of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan, to Sihon king of Heshbon and Og king of Bashan, who was at Ashtaroth, and that's like Astareth, that kind of thing. Therefore, our elders and all the inhabitants of our country spoke to us, saying, take provisions with you for the journey and go to meet them and say to them, we are your servants. Now, therefore, make a covenant with us. This bread of ours we took hot for our provision from our houses on the day we departed to come to you, but now look, it is dry and moldy. And these wineskins which we filled were new, and see, they are torn, and these our garments and our sandals have become old because of the very long journey. So this was total deception, okay? Then the men of Israel took some of their provisions, but they did not ask counsel of the Lord. So it looked convincing, but they still needed to consult God and ask, should we do this or not, right? They didn't do that. You always have to do that. And okay, they didn't do it. And then they fall into a trap. They got fooled, and it was a snare to them. Okay? So Joshua made peace with them and made a covenant with them to let them live, and the rulers of the congregation swore to them. And it happened at the end of 3 days, after they had made a covenant with them, that they heard that they were their neighbors who dwelt near them. Then the children of Israel journeyed and came to their cities on the 3rd day. Now their cities were Gibeon, Chephirah, Beeroth, and Kirjath Jearim. This comes up more, this name. But the children of Israel did not attack them, because the rulers of the congregation had sworn to them by the Lord God of Israel. And all the congregation complained against the rulers. Then all the rulers said to all the congregation, we have sworn to them by the Lord God of Israel. Now therefore we may not touch them. This we will do to them. We will let them live, lest wrath be upon us because of the oath which we swore to them. And the rulers said to them, let them live, but let them be woodcutters and water carriers for all the congregation, as the rulers had promised them. Then Joshua called for them, and he spoke to them, saying, why have you deceived us, saying, we are very far from you, when you dwell near us? Now therefore you are cursed, and none of you shall be freed from being slaves, woodcutters and water carriers for the house of my God. So they answered Joshua and said, because your servants were clearly told that the Lord your God commanded his servant Moses to give you all the land, and to destroy all the inhabitants of the land from before you. Therefore we were very much afraid for our lives because of you, and have done this thing. And now here we are in your hands. Do with us as it seems good and right to do to us. So he did to them, and delivered them out of the hand of the children of Israel, so that they did not kill them. And that day Joshua made them woodcutters and water carriers for the congregation, and for the altar of the Lord, in the place which he would choose, even to this day. Okay. All right. So that's what happened there. Okay. So that was the trick. So just be aware of that. Now, what I'll do is I'm going to show you what else is here. So in 10, we have what I mentioned in the last video, the signs in the skies, the kings hiding in the caves, and they get caught. So like it's a type of revelation. They conquest that land, and they gained that land, and they basically, it just goes on, conquest of this, conquest of that, the same way as before. So they end up, 11 and 12 and 13, all these chapters are gaining the land, okay? In 12 again, you have the kings uniting against them, try to attack them, but they're all defeated. So 13 is where it starts, the remaining land to be conquered, and then the land divided east of the Jordan. So the land starts to be allotted by inheritance to the tribes, and they got most of it. There was still a little bit left that they hadn't gotten yet, and it's probably because of the problems, But I forgot how much if they got it all eventually, but anyway, okay. They didn't get the whole thing that was declared to them. Anyway, but okay. Now, there's an interesting detail in chapter 13, verse 22. It says this. It's another little detail here about Balaam. The children of Israel also killed with the sword Balaam, the son of Beor, the soothsayer, among those who were killed by them. So judgment fell on him. Okay, and there's another detail about him that comes up later, so I will include that. 14, again, the land divided, this way and that way. And 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21 are all about that. See what I mean? So, like, of course, I'm not going to read all those details. See, it's all dividing the land, the whole thing. So the rest of Joshua is pretty much about this. 21 has something I have singled out here. 21 verses, and 20 is about the cities of refuge, and I talked about that too. That's another type of Christ. Okay, 21, 43 to 45. Okay, so this is like, I guess, the conclusion. So the Lord gave to Israel all the land of which he had sworn to give to their fathers, and they took possession of it and dwelt in it. So, okay, the Lord gave them rest all around, according to all that he had sworn to their fathers, and not a man of all their enemies stood against them. The Lord delivered all their enemies into their hand. Not a word failed of any good thing which the Lord had spoken to the house of Israel. All came to pass. So this is just a little closure thing for it all. So they gained the land, and that's it. And another thing that was promised to them was that if they behaved, they would have peace, like they'd be left alone by their enemies. They'd have rest from battle and all that. But if they didn't behave, they'd have problems, right? They'd always be battling, and they might even be enslaved, all those same things. So that's another conditional thing there. So anyway, here it was good, right? Up there, that it was fine. Okay, and then 22, same thing. The eastern tribes go back to their lands. They got those east of the Jordan. They build an altar on the way back, just as a monument thing. In 23, Joshua's farewell address. So he's getting ready to pass away, and he gives a farewell address, and just, a lot of review what, they should and shouldn't do, of course. And then 24 does that as well, and then reviewing the covenant and everything. Now, in 9 through 10, let me find it here. Then Balak, the son of Zippor, king of Moab, arose to make war against Israel, and sent and called Balaam, the son of Beor, to curse you. So this is God talking like to Israel, okay, like this is what the plan was. But I would not listen to Balaam, therefore he continued to bless you. So I delivered you out of his hand. So this looks more like his intention really was to curse them, and he would get a nice sum of money for that. So that looks like his intention was clearly more that, although it's not so evident when you read the story, okay? But God turned it into a blessing, like he made something else come out of his mouth instead, okay? So that looks like the deal there. And he did seem to be pretty kind of, determined in a certain way, Anyway, it just seemed fishy. Okay. So that's another insight into Balaam and Balak. Okay. Yeah, he just seemed to have a, sneaky intention about it and kind of coveting, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so that's the deal with him. Okay, now there was another one here. Um, Here we go. This one, 14 to 15. Now, therefore, fear the Lord, serve him in sincerity and in truth, and put away the gods which your fathers served on the other side of the river and in Egypt. Okay, he tells him this several times. It's almost like he knows something's up, right? Sometimes, and it gets worse as time goes on. Anyway, yeah, okay, there's so many things, but okay, so anyway, he tells them this again, he admonishes them again. It says, serve the Lord, and if it seems evil to you to serve the Lord, choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. So this is a famous verse, so that's where it comes from. And of course, we see in this, the free will choice to serve the Lord or not. It's our choice, it's our decision, and that's all the way throughout the Bible. And this is just a famous place that talks about that. But anyway, so he says this, of course, he'll serve the Lord, not false gods. And then they say the same thing. Oh, yeah, we'll do that too. We're going to serve the Lord too, and not the false gods. But, here they say, we also will serve the Lord, for he is our God, Okay, so they say that, but they, don't really, do it. But okay, so anyway, that goes on, and then he tells them all this. It's his farewell, and reminds them of the covenant, everything. And then Joshua passes away, and Eleazar the priest passed away. So that's, the end of that, and that's the end of Joshua as a book too. Okay, so that's it. See, there wasn't really a whole lot else in there. 22 is division of land, and mostly it's that. This whole part of it is about that. So, okay, that's it. I will be reading in here, and I'll do this next, probably tomorrow, at least some of it tomorrow. All those details are done. Like, those kinds of details are done. Now we get to stories. Judges is full of stories. Ruth is a story. Samuel, it's all stories and history mostly. Whenever there's a genealogy or census, I'll just pass that by. Okay, so that's it for today, and that's the book of Joshua. So you have a blessed rest of your evening, and I'll be back tomorrow.